After the final buzzer. This is where you come for instant post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Yegor blocked. Butler ahead. Melton catching. Touchdown!
I mean, he just kept coming. He knows Yegor's going up. He's the hot man. As soon as Jimmy Butler got it, he just threw it out. Got no steal.
Will Richard with a steal. It's the Warriors creating turnovers and scoring.
And it would mostly wind up being, not a lot of drama down the stretch there for the Warriors. They put the game away. I do think, the 10-point lead got down to 3 at one point. But the Warriors with plenty of answers in the fourth quarter. No fourth quarter collapse. And they get the job done in Brooklyn, second of the back-to-back. Zero excuses. This is a game the Warriors absolutely had to cannot get back below 500 here with a game in Charlotte before coming home and heading toward January with all the home games coming up. Had to continue the winning ways. And so the Warriors do that by winning against the Brooklyn Nets. Final score ends up being 120-107 Warriors over the Brooklyn Nets. We welcome you in here to Dubs OT with JD here on this Monday night on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR, the number, 415-808-5627, as Golden State finds a way to get back over the 500 mark, 17-16 on the season, now 1-1 on the road trip. And it is 4 of the last 5 now in the win column, going back to December the 20th with the 3 home wins, and then the brutal collapse yesterday afternoon while everybody was gearing up for the 49ers and the Bears down at Levi's Stadium. Warriors with a 7-point lead and less than 2 minutes to go in that one, and they wind up getting outscored 28-7 over basically the final 6.5 minutes of the game to lose in overtime. So no Dubs OT following that one, but we're back and at it here again with Kyle Haar in the Daly City Studios and John Dickinson with you here for the next 90 minutes or so on the Sports Leader as the Warriors find a way to avenge the brutal defeat and move toward the finale for 2025, which is going to be a morning affair out here on the West Coast on Wednesday with the Warriors taking on Charlotte, and then a whole lot of home games for Golden State to begin January. And of course, we'll be all over it right here on the Sports Leader. So 808 KNBR, the number to jump in and join the conversation if you wish to do so. 415-808-5627. Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open. You can send us a text there in reaction to a game that the Warriors wind up winning without too much drama in the fourth quarter, and a couple of storylines from this one. Warriors basically win this game by dominating the paint and by dominating the bench scoring. 58-27 Dubs plus 31 in bench scoring and a 56-30 advantage in the paint. And so often we see the Warriors just get hammered in the paint with regularity. And tonight that was not the case, despite the fact that the Nets possess some bigs and some wing length and some players that at times can prove to be problematic against the Warriors. But again, tonight, no excuses. And I said this before, I guess it would have been after the game, going back to, gosh, what all the days are running together now for me. This would have been, I guess, back on Christmas. No excuses for Golden State. If you beat Toronto, then you still need to beat Brooklyn and Charlotte. And if you lose to Toronto, and I thought the Toronto game was going to be on paper the toughest game. Toronto has the size and the wings. And look, the Warriors should have won that game. Rarely do I look at a game just because a team has a lead in a fourth quarter the way they did yesterday and say, oh, that's a game you should win. But given the way the Warriors played, and Steph and Jimmy and Draymond all engaged in a 7-point lead in the final 2 minutes, that was absolutely a game the Warriors should have won. But I'm willing to give a little bit on that one if you can come back and win the game tonight. No excuses. I don't want to hear about how well Brooklyn's been playing. I don't want to hear about their defense in December. Brooklyn stinks. They're 10-20. They stink. I don't care if it's a second of a back-to-back. I don't care how many three-pointers they make. They made 18 three-pointers to beat the Warriors by 8 three-pointers in this game. So a plus 24 in favor of Brooklyn. And guess what? You know what you do if you're the Golden State Warriors and you go to Brooklyn and they hit 18 threes on you and are plus 24? You beat them by double digits anyway. That's what a good team does in the NBA. They don't make excuses about playing the freaking Brooklyn Nets on December the 29th. You go in and you handle business, and I give the Warriors credit for doing that in a game that, frankly, had a predictably embarrassing start given the collapse in Toronto yesterday. We talked about the 28-7 with the Warriors up in the final 2 minutes by 7 points, and they lose that game. They just get throttled. End up giving up 141 and lose by 14 in overtime. And there was nothing more predictable than Brooklyn immediately being up 18-10 or 18-8 in this game by 10 off the Toronto collapse. And then 28-13, Brooklyn was ahead. And again, I give the Warriors credit because it was the bench group really in that early part keyed by Gary Payton and DeAnthony Melton and Jimmy Butler. TJD with some positive minutes again tonight. Trace Jackson-Davis making an impact. And the Warriors close to the first quarter 15-2, I think is what ultimately saved them in this game, because it got them back to a point where they were only down 30-28 going to the second quarter. And then things kind of opened up and it became much more of a back and forth offensive flow type of a game in the second quarter that really, I thought, carried through the rest of the night and proved to be beneficial for Golden State in this one. Steve Kerr really subbing a lot in the second of the back-to-back as you look up at the box score into the game, and every single player, and the Warriors had 14 active and available. Everybody except Jonathan Kuminga in the second of the back-to-back saw minutes in this game. And again, I give that bench group that I mentioned there at the end of the first quarter a lot of credit for helping to cut into what was a really poor start for Golden State. And I hate to say it, but a predictably poor start for Golden State, again, coming off of the game and the way yesterday finished. So some excellent Trace Jackson-Davis minutes throughout the night. He winds up being among the Warrior plus minus leaders in this one, as he was double digits, plus 10, along with Guy Santos, DeAnthony Melton, and Will Richard. Nice to see DeAnthony Melton have a game where his impact is met with all the intangible things that he's able to do, and also met with the ability to make some shots and score some points. And DeAnthony Melton was able to do that. 10 points, 8 boards, couple of steals. Like, he's somebody that should really fill out the stat sheet in a big way. But again, and he didn't play in the front end of the back-to-back yesterday. The Warriors gave Al Horford the back end of the back-to-back off today. But DeAnthony Melton is somebody that can be such an intangible net plus for this Warriors team with everything he does. But the Warriors are still not good enough to where he can be on the floor and playing a ton unless he's also going to show some semblance of an ability to score. And he did that in this game. I thought Steve Kerr really, with the Warriors playing well in that second quarter, he gave Steph a long rest. Steph didn't finish the first half of this game and only played 12 minutes in the first half, and the Warriors were up by 2. At that point, they go on to win the third quarter despite 5 turnovers, 30-28 to lead by 4 going to the fourth quarter. And Warriors in that third quarter, Steve Kerr making a lineup change, Quentin Post exiting the starting group in the third quarter, Brandon Podziemski in, and Podziemski with Steph, Moses Moody, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, that best 5 from the post-Jimmy Butler trade era out there to begin the third. And what happens immediately? The lineup that everybody's been calling for, that's played more together of late, but hasn't really been starting halves or games together, they immediately go 4 minutes without scoring. And Brooklyn goes 12-5 to begin the quarter. And then Steph started to get going in the third quarter. He heated up, and the Warriors wind up winning that quarter. And again, Melton and TJD It was also a third quarter Jimmy Butler takeover as he wound up with 13 points in that quarter. He scores 21 overall, and 13 of the 21 he's getting to the free throw line come from Jimmy Butler. At that point in the third quarter, he had the little mini Jimmy takeover, and then you're thinking how much drama in the fourth with the Warriors up 4 and basically in a similar spot as to where they were up more yesterday in Toronto, and the Warriors able to push the lead up immediately. Curry to hit a 3. Will Richard put him up 9. And then from 9, it would get cut right back down to 3. But some big-time answers, Melton and Will Richard and Pajemski push it back up to 9. Brooklyn had the one quick little 6-0 run, but the Warriors able to put it away again by forcing some turnovers down the stretch and ultimately prevailing in this one by that final of 120-107. So 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. Missed opportunity for the Dubs yesterday in Toronto, as we kind of talk about both games in a nutshell, but a nice bounce back win for the Warriors as they get the job done against Brooklyn. So a couple of phone lines open. Again, Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. We'll get to that as well, but let's go ahead and say good evening to our friend Kyle Haar in the Daly City studios. Kyle, what's going on tonight, my man? How much were you sweating it out in the studio as Brooklyn cuts it down to 3, and then the Warriors get it back up to 9 or 10, and then they cut it down to 6 real quick? I mean, were you thinking, oh my God, here we go again? I think at one point I put on social media, if the Warriors can't finish this one, ... Like I wouldn't have even known where to start if they hadn't been able to finish this one. But the Dubs able to figure out a way to get the job done, force some turnovers, hit some big shots, and many different contributors for Golden State in this one tonight.
Yeah, good to be with you, JD. And oh my God, well, once I saw the Nets go to like a full court press, I mean, it wasn't like the Raptors full court press, but I think I got PTSD from that. I was like, oh no, please, anything but the full court press. I mean, it kind of blew my mind just going back to last game, the Warriors' inability to beat that press. And it wasn't just one guy. It was, Peyton for one turnover, Pods for another, even Jimmy Butler for another. But yeah, squeaked out tonight's win, but so needed it in the worst way.
Yeah, and Steph needed it. I mean, Steph was somebody that had a couple of turnovers and didn't exactly handle that trap yesterday. And we always can get into kind of the whistle surrounding Steph. I thought there were some funky calls with some continuations in the game tonight. But yeah, nobody handled the trap well. I think the Warriors really got exposed yesterday, as they often do, by the wing length that a team like Toronto possesses. I think Toronto is somewhat similar to a team like Portland with a lot of wing length, and then they can go get the ball on the offensive glass. So really tough because the Warriors were cooking, and they win the 3 games at home. And I had a sneaking suspicion that the Warriors were going to come out and play well in Toronto. That's a building where, Steph and Draymond have had, a lot of memories winning some finals games, and it's always a great crowd there in Toronto. And Steph likes going there. His dad played there for part of his career. So he spent some time there as a kid in Toronto and really likes being in that city and playing in front of those fans. And so I thought the Warriors were even for that late afternoon in the Eastern time zone, 3:30 start, and everybody out here is geared up for the football game. Like I had a feeling the Warriors were going to play inspired in that game. And the thing that really concerned me was the way that the Warriors lost after playing as well as they did. And yes, it was a complete abomination down the stretch and collapse. And the nature at which the Warriors lost the game, I thought really set them up to be in a very bad position in this game. Again, no excuses, but I thought the game tonight in Brooklyn was going to be really difficult for this team to get up for in the second of a back-to-back, by comparison to the game in Toronto, where I think the energy was going to be really good, and the Raptors have a better record and all of those things. Again, as I've said a bunch of times, I don't care about any of that. Like, tonight was a game that was a must-win regardless, but to get right back on track in some ways and continue the positive momentum, even though the loss yesterday is, one of kind of the quintessential 25-26 Warrior season loss. I mean, just kind of the classic vintage Warrior loss of not only this season, but really the last 3 or 4 seasons, when you look at just having the lead, kind of being in control, few turnovers, can't handle things defensively, miss some shots, and then all of a sudden you get swallowed up on this big run and you wind up losing a game that you believe that you had in the bag. And the Warriors have had, I don't know, double digits or pretty close to it in terms of games you could make the case that they probably should have won when they had played similarly to the game that they played yesterday. But to bounce back is something. To make it 4 of 5. Now you got to go get the Charlotte game. No excuses there on Wednesday. And I think, we talked about it when the Warriors dipped to a couple of games under 500 after the Phoenix game, when they came back from the second of the 3 days off there around the NBA Cup time. 5-1 was basically price of admission for this Warriors team to close out December. And then you get all the home games and you see if you can get on a run from there as you approach the 41 game mark, which is going to be right where they are on January the 15th when Jonathan Kuminga's trade window opens. And I think that's when truly the trade season opens for Golden State, as they get to a situation where they have that 3-week window to be able to look to move on from Kuminga and look to add to this roster. I don't think anything that the Warriors have done here in the last 5 games changes the fact that they have to still look to make changes and make upgrades to this roster as a whole. But as has been discussed a ton here on the Sports Leader, on Dubs OT and on Just Dubs, you got to win in the meantime, and you got to figure out ways to win, games to keep yourself alive in the standings and keep yourself alive with something that you believe is worth fighting for here as you head toward January and the post-trade deadline portion of the schedule and February and March and beyond. And so I think the Warriors are giving themselves some semblance of hope while fully acknowledging, again, that I don't think anything is completely or totally cured among the issues that can continue to pop up for this team. Again, I think the way that they played down the stretch yesterday in Toronto and losing that game is still very much a tell as to the fact that this team, while it may look like they're fixing some of their problems, they've still got those games like yesterday very much in them at a moment's notice. And even tonight, it looked like they were about 2 possessions away from having this thing completely feel like it felt, yesterday afternoon as they're collapsing and losing a 7-point lead. And ultimately losing that game by double digits. All right, let's get some Kyle's clicks to begin the program here. The best YouTube chat in sports before we get to our first time out. Gene McIntyre, I still don't understand how Guy is playing over a lottery pick, eerily similar to Anthony Lamb playing over lottery picks in 22 and 23. Dude is out of the league. Again, why would Jonathan Kuminga be playing right now when there's a risk that he could get hurt? And again, if you want to take the conversation to that point, I mean, I'll go there with you, Gene. Jonathan Kuminga has proved himself to be incapable of being a quality role player for the Warriors. He's proven it. Guy Santos can be a role player. Guy Santos can be somebody that can play 5 minutes or play no minutes or play 20 minutes, depending upon the night. And you know what you're going to get from Guy Santos. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say Jonathan Kuminga, is not Jonathan Kuminga is a better basketball player than Guy Santos. We'll put it simply. Like there's no question. But Jonathan Kuminga on this Warriors team in the role that they need him to play is not better than Guy Santos at the role that Guy Santos knows how to play. And it's the same thing for Will Richard, and it's the same thing for Moses Moody, and it's the same thing for Brandon Pajemski, and it's the same thing for DeAnthony Melton. And so it isn't a question about a lottery pick. I mean, this is year 5. Like this isn't about number 7 versus undrafted or number 7 versus second round pick. None of that matters anymore. None of that matters anymore. At this point, Jonathan Kuminga, and look, Jonathan Kuminga, let's also be honest. We've seen the writing on the wall going back 3 years with Jonathan Kuminga. There's been some semblance of exactly what we've seen that's proven him to be incapable of being a part of a consistent rotation. 3 years ago in 22-23, we saw it in 23-24, and you saw it in 24-25, and now you're seeing it again here in 25-26. So it's not about – Steve's tried to play him in the 5 minutes a half role, and Kuminga stinks at it. Like, it's like, give it up. It's over. It's not about value. It's not about talent. It's not about Anthony Lamb. Because you know what? Anthony Lamb was better. Anthony Lamb was better than Kuminga at the role that he was being asked to play. And I used to get in arguments about that. Ed Kerr, a lot of the times, would play them together. And Kuminga was better when Anthony Lamb was on the floor with him. But the number one thing, and yes, good Draymond, they're protecting him for a trade. That is the most important. Like, we're done with this scenario where they're just going to throw him out there and just to give him some minutes, or so his value doesn't decline even more. The absolute last shot was when Kerr gave him the reward in Phoenix, and he went out there and stunk up the joint in 10 minutes. It's like, enough. Like, why even put him out there? And you lose that game by a point. Like, don't even put him out there. So don't let him get hurt. He's had injury issues with the knees. And so you don't want anything to pop up here that winds up making him continue to be on the roster, but beyond the trade deadline. That would be an absolute nightmare if you put him out here at this point and he does roll an ankle or twist a knee or something that truly makes him completely untradeable come the January 15th to February 5th window. So again, I didn't anticipate getting into Jonathan Kuminga a lot tonight, but I don't know. Somebody, I guess people can't still seem to understand the fact that the guy's never been capable of being a role player on this team. And I mean, it ain't rocket science. We the champs, babe. No way in heaven or hell I'm satisfied with this win. Yeah, there's not a lot to it other than they bounced back and they didn't allow it to become a second consecutive loss off of the loss yesterday. I said it going back to, again, I guess it would have been on the 20th after the second Phoenix game. You got to go 5-1 in the final 6, and now they're 4-1 with 1 game to go. So I'm actually looking at it as it relates to what the expectation was going back to then, and less about the fact that they basically tricked that game away yesterday. So, this win doesn't mean a lot. They still need to fix this roster. They still need to look to add. I think they are going to look to add. I think we all know it, but you can't be saying that you're going to be looking to add from a position of 2 and 3 and 4 games under 500. You need to try to do everything you can to get to 3 and 4 and 6 games over 500 with all the home games that the Warriors have coming up. I mean, they need to try to get to, 23 and 18, something like that, at some point between now and the middle part of the year on January the 15th, when the trade window opens for Kuminga. You got to get a lot of you got to get about a third of the work that you're going to need to get done here over what will be a 4-week stretch where, this team has an opportunity with the schedule that they've had here of late and going into January to just get some wins. But yeah, I don't expect anybody to be satisfied with it. I don't think there's any cure-all with this team. I just think it's a matter of sucking it up and putting the onus on Steve and Steph and Jimmy and Draymond to lead the way and put some of the young players in the best position they can be as role players to help contribute with those 3 kind of leading the charge, and just make a little bit of a mini run here toward that deadline where you can look to try to fix up the roster a little bit. Daryl Lightfoot, JD, are you in on trying to get Michael Porter over here? And Will Richard minutes equals W's, baby. Love this guy. I'm with you on Will Richard. Yeah, I would look at Michael Porter Jr. And that was something that was going to be on my list to bring up tonight, given the fact that the Warriors were playing Brooklyn and Michael Porter Jr.'s name has come up in trade reports and rumors as somebody that's being tied to the Warriors. Now, Nick Claxton has also, the center for the Brooklyn Nets, has been somebody, and he had 15 points and 9 boards and 4 assists and 3 steals tonight. He was really good out there in 36 minutes. Nick Claxton has also been a name that's kind of popped up for the Warriors as a potential player that Golden State would have interest in. But yeah, I'm looking at the Brooklyn Nets salary structure right now, and Nick Claxton is one of those guys that basically would work player for player, for Jonathan Kuminga. Now, look, Nick Claxton's a better player than Jonathan Kuminga, and so you'd have to, at that point, be looking to add, other things to a deal there. But Michael Porter Jr. is also a name that Michael Porter Jr. I think would be a perfect fit. You could plug him right into your starting lineup as a big wing who can shoot the rock and he can rebound a little bit. Now, Michael Porter Jr. is making $38 million. So you're talking about Kuminga would have to go there. You're talking about, maybe Moses Moody would have to go there to get Michael Porter Jr. And, would they want to talking about Brooklyn, Buddy Hield with the time that he's left on his contract? Probably not. So, I could see I could see Brooklyn saying, yeah, we'll give you Porter, who's 27 and a 6'10", shooting wing that can rebound a little bit, but you're going to have to give us Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, and have the framework of a deal be that. And, I'm at the point where I probably would still look to do that at this point, because I just don't think Moses Moody has the size that you want from a wing or the consistency in terms of shooting the basketball that you'd want to have. And I believe that bringing somebody in that can shoot the rock the way Michael Porter Jr. can shoot the rock is the type of player that could really open some things up for Golden State, along the lines. But yeah, I don't, again, as good Draymond is saying, JD's fantasizing. Look, I think Porter would be good, but I don't know that even Kuminga and Moody would get the job done. If they want picks, would you do that too? Says Diggum. I would consider it. Although I'd be more inclined to give up a pick if they were going to take Buddy and maybe not Moody. If it was more Kuminga, Buddy, and because you're taking Buddy, you'll get a draft pick as opposed to Moody, potentially Kuminga, and a draft pick. Now you're giving up 3 pretty young assets for somebody that basically would be a 2-year or a year and a half type of a rental in Michael Porter Jr. And of course the Warriors could look to re-sign him. But again, he's already right at that 40 million plateau. So if he's somebody you're going to look to, add money to moving forward, then, his number's going to probably bump up from that $40 million range. And I think you could make the case Michael Porter Jr., for all the things that he does, is a little overpaid at this point, even at 27, for what he brings to the table. But again, that being said, he's not the defender that I think the Warriors would want from that wing, but he does give them the shooting, and he does give them the size that they covet at that position. He would immediately be the Warriors' best wing player, not named Jimmy Butler, on the entire roster, and provide an element that is extremely complementary to what Jimmy Butler brings to the table. So yeah, I would consider adding a pick to that deal, Diggum, if you're looking at Michael Porter Jr. And I like Nick Claxton too, more and more. And again, can you get both of them? Probably not unless you're looking to move, Draymond as well. And I just don't think Draymond is somebody that you'd be moving for Nick Claxton. Draymond's somebody you're moving for I think a bigger name with maybe a little bit more high risk, high reward type of an impact in comparison to somebody like Claxton. All right, let's get a couple of more here. We'll take our first time out. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. JC Mack, Kerr is trying to recreate the Clay dynamics with Buddy. Imagine doing that with MPJ. MPJ kind of reminds me of Clay a little bit. Like, again, not the defender, but he's kind of an aloof, eclectic personality, to be sure. And he just lets it fly. Like, he lets it fly and thinks every shot's going in, and he'll take some bad shots, but he's also going to hit some tough shots because he does not seem to be afraid of the moment. And look, Michael Porter Jr. is somebody that I think he's done it on a championship team going back to Denver in the 2023 season when Denver won the title. So I think immediately, you could start to look at a Steph, Melton, MPJ, Jimmy, Draymond closing lineup. And again, I think that's a lineup that's got some action to it as a closing lineup. And again, is that a lineup you'd start? I think you kind of have to. Again, I think as much as Steve Kerr wants to go big and put Draymond at the 4 and play another center, I think we saw it again with him going away from it tonight in the second half at the beginning. The Warriors' best lineups are the best lineups that feature Draymond are when Draymond is the center. And I think that's creating a conundrum. It's not new. And again, I know, the small lineups are the killers and everybody, that's the reason for every Warrior problem is Draymond Green in many lineups almost can't play the 4 anymore effectively. And I think we've seen Steve try to really rework his rotation to try and find, some shorter 3-4 minute bursts with different groups to try and utilize each player's effectiveness in terms of some of the combinations that are out there together. All right, let's get 2 more. Andis Brown, welcome. Michael Porter Jr. is a good player, but would he push the Warriors to being a real contender? Not sure about that. Fair question. I do think, though, he helps them win enough games in the regular season to where they'd have a realistic shot at getting to 6. And I think if they have a realistic shot at getting to 6, then once they can get into a playoff type scenario, they can pull off an upset depending upon what the matchup is. And then I think, as we get closer to the midpoint of this season and the Warriors looking to make moves, as crazy as it is to say, it really almost is now a 2-year kind of proposition. And I hate to say it because I feel like we said it last year, we said it 2 years ago, but it really is like, can you make a move that makes you feel better and gets you closer to where you feel like you've got a team that can be, good regular season good enough compared to where they are right now? And then can you augment that with maybe another move in the offseason that gets you back to contender status there? I think that's something that would have to be that would have to be factored in. And as a few people have said, can he stay healthy is going to be a key question as well. And that always is a question with Michael Porter Jr. Can he stay healthy? But the skill set, I think, is absolutely there and absolutely what you'd want if you're the Golden State Warriors. All right, let's do one more. The best lineups are the ones that hit shots. Yeah, no question. And the Warriors don't have enough of those. Dig 'em. That's a reality. They don't have enough of those, whether Quentin Post has been in there or Quentin Post has not been in there. But the Warriors found enough lineups that could do enough things tonight to prevail in this one over the Brooklyn Nets. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. If you want to weigh in on the collapse from yesterday as the Warriors blow the 7-point lead in the final 2 minutes of regulation, lose by 14 in overtime, and the bounce back win tonight against Brooklyn as they end up with a nice fourth quarter. They push their lead from 4 all the way up to 13. They win at 120-107. And we're talking about it right here. Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Steph, the shot blocker, Claxton. In, out, on contact, and he put it in.
They're going to give it to him?
Is he in the act of
Is he
shooting?
in the act of shooting?
They're going to give it to him.
All right, they gave it to him, but there were a couple other ones they didn't give to him. But all in all, Warriors get the win, 120-107 in Brooklyn. So they're 1-1 on the road trip. We're back here, Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader in this 7 o'clock hour. Got a little backed up on spots here in the 7 o'clock hour. So we're going to do a short segment, and then we'll get everything back on track and ready to roll here as we head into the 8 o'clock hour. Probably go till about 8:30, 8:40. Somewhere in there tonight as the Warriors get the win to get back to a game over 500. We're keeping an eye on Monday Night Football. Not a game that has a lot of significance as it relates to the 49ers, but the Rams were getting throttled and all hell kind of broke loose to where that game's now tied at 24 down in Atlanta. But let's get some more chats here for about 3 minutes. Let's try to run through as many as we can here, Kyle. And then we'll get things back on the clock here for the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Official Dr. P. Kerr finally played the 5 best players on the team as the closing lineup: Curry, Butler, Green, Melton, and Richard. That is, I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's a group that can play together. I do think Melton at the 2 is probably the move. And then Steph's going to obviously be out there. Jimmy and Draymond, I think, at the 4 and the 5 are the best lineup. Yeah, I think Will Richard has been somebody that's been able to be counted on. I don't know that that's the 5 best players on the team, but I definitely think that's a 5-player group that is really complementary of each other's skill sets. And look, I don't care Will Richard is a rookie. Like, Will Richard doesn't play like a rookie, and his impact is definitely not that of a rookie. So I think, Will Richard, I don't even blink in terms of thinking, could he be out there in a potential closing lineup? And he was a part of that group tonight. And forced some turnovers, got out on the break and helped the Warriors along with Melton and the others put the game away. All right, let's get another couple of more here. JD, what center would you trade for? Yeah, it's interesting because centers are not really at the top of my wish list overall. And so, I mean, you look at some of the names that have been mentioned of late. Nick Claxton got mentioned. Robert Williams III has been mentioned as of late. I'm not sure how Claxton fits with Draymond and Jimmy Butler. And look, Claxton's playing a lot. So if you're going to go get Nick Claxton, like, how does that work with the rest of what you have, right? To me, you go get Nick Claxton not to play him 20 minutes a game, but you get him to probably play him 30 minutes a game. And would the Warriors and Steve Kerr really look to do that? So that's interesting. I've been out on the potential for them to look to go get Anthony Davis. I just still think they need a wing more than they need a center. And until I'm sure, no DeAndre Ayton. I'm not in on DeAndre Ayton at all. But I think before they get a center, I want to flesh out what they can get on the wing market. And then if it comes to a point where you can't get the wing player that you want, then maybe you start looking at, all right, well, can you get a center and look to improve the team in a different way at that point. All right, one more here. We'll take a timeout. Again here to kind of catch up on some things. A loss tonight would have been gutless. It looked gutless early. I don't think I called it gutless formally, but when they were down 28-13, it was gutless. And the lack of fight and heart and effort, given the way that they finished the game yesterday in Toronto, that would have been about as bad as anything as we've seen to chase that loss with another one tonight. All right, let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back and we'll open things up here to begin the 8 o'clock hour. We'll get a longer segment, more from the YouTube chat. We do have a couple of lines open. Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. We'll get to Sounds of Dubs OT as well between now and the end of the night. Warriors win 120-107. We're talking about it right here on the Sports Leader.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Richard knocked it away. Richard diving on the deck. Yegor's got it. They're trying to tie him up. Still no whistle. Richard took it away. TJD the freebie.
He cuffed it home. How about the unselfishness? Let TJD go showtime.
Yeah, another night where TJD makes a positive impact and makes your boy here kind of eat his words for discussing the lack of potential impact that more TJD minutes could have. He's played more of late, and it's helped the Warriors, including tonight, as the Warriors do beat Brooklyn tonight, 120-107, as we're back here, Dubs OT, with JD, Trace Jackson Davis, 11 points, 6 boards, had a steal, had a couple of blocks. He was 5 for 6. He was finishing, and a plus 10, a part of a Warrior bench group that really did a number on Brooklyn. Part of the story as to why the Warriors were able to win this game. 58-27 bench point advantage for the Warriors in a game they win by 13. Warriors also points in the paint tonight. 56 points in the paint to Brooklyn's 30, and that along with the free throw advantage as well. The Warriors are plus 11 at the free throw line in terms of points. They got to the line 11 more times than Brooklyn did. So kind of a different template for the Warriors, who got out hit from 3-point range, 18-10 in favor of the Nets, who don't make a ton of threes, but the Warriors were daring them to hit some early, and the Nets were hitting some 3-pointers early and throughout the course of the night to help hang in and at different points of the night lead the game. So the Warriors 17-16. By the way, Atlanta, the Falcons, have gone ahead of the Rams with 21 seconds to go. Kind of a wild, weird night in Atlanta. And so we'll see if a miracle there can be pulled off by Matthew Stafford and the Rams. Again, not much does this game matter for the 49ers. The game that the Rams are going to play against the Cardinals means more. But of course, the Niners are playing for the 1 seed in the NFC. If they win, they're the 1 seed. If they lose, they're either the 5 or the 6. But for the Niners to be the 5, even if they lose to Seattle, it would take the Rams losing to the Arizona Cardinals in week 18. Wow, Stafford had an open receiver that just missed what would have been a completion that would have put him into field goal range to potentially tie the game. So keeping everybody updated on that as the Rams are in danger of taking what would be their 5th loss of the season. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line here, 530 chiming in. JD, the Warriors' balanced attack is when they're at their best. Tonight was Golden State Warriors basketball. Yeah, you can say it was balanced, but it was also Steph Curry 27 and Jimmy Butler 21. I mean, your main 2 guys were your leaders, and they were in the 20s, and you had a guy pushing in the high 20s to almost 30 in Steph, who did it extremely efficiently on a 5 of 12 from 3 and 8 of 15. Now, it didn't take him a ton of shots to get to that point, but tonight was another the baseline for anything that the Warriors are going to look to do is going to be Steph and Jimmy having to hold up their end of the bargain every single night. And I think that is aggressive in terms of shot selection and aggressive in terms of pushing that 20. I think in Steph's case, pushing 30. In Jimmy Butler's case, it has to be, getting to 20 in addition to the assists and the rebounds and the other floor game stuff that Jimmy really likes to be able to do. And so I think that's where you look at it and where things stand right now for the Warriors and for where things stand here with how their balance is going to be. And then you don't know who the third guy is going to be on a given night. And so you have to see how that shakes out tonight. They didn't really have a bona fide third, but that's where they did have the balance, right? GP2 had 10 and was impactful in particular in the first half. TJD had 11. Melton and Richard each had 10. So they didn't have another guy that basically had 20 or another guy who basically accounted for 30, but they had 4 guys who accounted for 40. And if you've got, Jimmy and Steph basically at that point going for 50, then you got a little bit of action. But I would push back a little bit. The balance was there, but the balance was there under the framework of the main guys having, almost a minimum of that, of a 50-point attack. 8-3-1. Dubs have been a hard watch each night, regardless of win or loss. They played such beautiful basketball during their peak years. It makes the last few seasons stand in dark contrast. We may never see anything like the Dubs at their peak in the NBA again. Very grateful to witness those magical years. Well said by the 8-3-1. I mean, that is a fact. I mean, I don't think we are going to. I mean, the peak Steph, Clay, Draymond years, and then you added Kevin Durant to it and Iguodala. There was a whole lot of really high IQ, offensive prowess, and then defensive prowess as well in play there. And so I think you're right. I mean, and I do think that's something that, a lot of the newer fans that have watched that team and be so dominant at times, you can't even understand, like, well, how could, because this team, the way that they're playing absolutely does not compare to the way those teams play, but there still is, I think, very much a middle ground that can be in play for this team to succeed and maybe not quite get to a championship caliber level, but get to a contender type level in terms of being able to win a playoff series or win a couple of playoff series and put themselves in the conversation. But I think the last part of that text from the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line, no question, we may never see anything like the Warriors at their peak again from any team And, what's the best team right now? The flavor of the week right now is OKC, given that they're the champs, and it looked like maybe they were going to push the Warriors for the record at some point. And I think you look at, they don't play nearly the style of play that the Warriors played at, and they're a great in their own right. 415, great Dubs bounce back win coming off of the debacle in the fourth quarter at Toronto. Good comment there. Really appreciate that one. And 618 checking in. Curry and Jimmy got to finish the job on the road in Charlotte on Wednesday to help this team end the trip at 2-1 and get to 5-1 overall in the last 6 games. So we appreciate the text there on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. Again, 808 KMBR if you want to jump in and join the conversation via the phone lines. Kind of a Monday night holiday, a little bit of a slower YouTube chat, but we appreciate everybody as always watching on YouTube and Twitch, as we're all kind of watching Atlanta and the Rams come down to the wire here on Monday Night Football, as well as the Warriors get the win tonight in Brooklyn. All right, let's get a few more Kyle's clicks here, and then we'll head toward our sounds of Dubs OT as well here. Go ahead, Kyle. What do we got? Gene, of course, TJD is an athlete. You want them to trade JK for a similar player like Claxton. Makes no sense. Get an athletic, skilled player. Now, what team wants JK that bad when he's not playing, not getting minutes, I guess is what Gene's saying there. Yeah, look, TJD's not going to be somebody I believe is going to be trusted to be in the rotation for the rest of the year. I would much rather get a skilled wing than a big. I've said that a million times. But the bottom line is JK's got to go. And JK's had to go for a while. And so I think what you look to do if you're the Warriors is get the best player you can get for Jonathan Kuminga at the trade deadline. He cannot be on this Warriors roster beyond February 5th. And so, that's why, somebody asked me today, JD, do you think it's going to be quick? Like, do you think he's going to be gone immediately? And maybe, but I also think it's going to be a scenario where they're going to have to flesh out the ability to see what the best offers for. And I think his ability to be packaged with another player and potentially picks could be a reason why it winds up maybe taking a little bit longer to find a deal. And so, yeah, but I'm not to answer your question, Gene, about TJD. I'm not thinking I have anything in TJD that would prevent me from making a move involving JK, because TJD, like, if you can get Nick Claxton, give me Nick Claxton 20 out of 20 times over TJD. All right. You like that's got no impact on anything, because I don't think TJD is going to be playing once push comes to shove down toward the end of the season. What is the likelihood Lacob overrides JK at the last moment because he doesn't like the value in return? Possible, but that would be an absolute catastrophic decision, and one that I think would have some significant ramifications in the Warriors locker room if he isn't moved. He needs to be moved, because here's the thing. Are you going to get more or less value for Jonathan Kuminga in the offseason compared to what you would get at the trade deadline? That's a debate that has to be had. I think, as you look at where this thing stands, like they got to move him, period. And I don't think what JK is going to override him, so he just sits his ass on the bench and doesn't play for the final 3 months of the season. Like I think Joe Lacob knows the jig is up as it relates to Jonathan Kuminga. But so I don't foresee a situation where that happens. JC Mack, this roster is bad, but they are better than their record. It's the use of the roster that remains a problem. TJD, Gee, Pat, would have been impactful yesterday against the Raptors. Look, they built a 7-point lead with 2 minutes to go without those guys having much of an impact. All right. And you don't get to, when you have a 7-point lead over 46 minutes of game action, and then you don't get the win, go back and say you should have done 800 different things throughout the course of the game, or play guys that weren't playing in the overtime, up until the overtime as much in the overtime. And, TJD didn't see the floor yesterday. That was a bit surprising. I know he's been a little ill. I know tonight he was basically barfing in a cup on the sideline at one point during the game. But I will push back. I don't think this team, a game or two, I don't really think this team is better than, this roster at this point. I don't think that they're better than their record. I think they're exactly what their record is. And I think, when you have so many different players of a similar skill level that, play different positions and need to play with different groups to be successful, then I don't think it lends itself to that every night you lose a game saying, well, you should have played the other guy. Like we go through that. I'm looking at Gene. We can disagree on JK, but Melton is solidified in the closing lineup. Well, he is until he has a couple of games where he doesn't make shots, Gene, like happened a couple, within the last handful of games. And then can you close him if he's 0 for 5 and can't put the P in the ocean? Can't throw a P in the ocean, standing on the shore. Like then you got to evaluate that. And do you put lineups out there that can rebound, but then you have no offensive flow, and maybe you get beat because you lack offensive flow? Like it's Irwin Kwong, Walker, Alexander, Mathurin, Nesmith are under the radar 3-and-D wings. Yeah, I don't know about Mathurin. Mathurin's kind of I think Mathurin's a better version of JK. A little bit more of a guard skilled version of JK. Nesmith I like. And yeah, I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is somebody that I think could be a potential fit. I mean, I like Najee Marshall as well. We've talked about him. But yeah, I mean, Nesmith among that group, I think, because he's more of a shooter, would be somebody that I would definitely factor in as it relates to that. But yeah, no, the name tonight is Michael Porter Jr. because that's who they played. But look, this is still very much a flawed roster. And anytime, even yesterday when this team had won 3 games in a row, you look up and in a game where you were in control with 2 minutes to go and you can't finish the deal. And then in the aftermath of that, because they can't get some rebounds in the overtime and the Toronto Wings take advantage of the Warriors, then it immediately becomes, well, you should have played these 5 guys over these 5 guys. Well, the guys that you played got you the 7-point lead with 2 minutes to go. So they were doing something right up until that point. Like at some point, it's just close the freaking games with the guys that you have that got you to the point where they had the lead. And so I just think that's an indicator of a very, 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 very flawed roster, as a good Draymond points out. All right, let's get Danny in Vancouver, 808 KMBR on the phone lines here as we continue on Dubs OT here on this Monday night. What's going on, Danny?
Hey, JD. Missed you after the Toronto debacle. I mean, I needed some comforting and consoling and your soothing voice. I mean, you weren't there. I can't live like that. But glad to have you back.
I know. No, I appreciate it, Danny. It's tough when it's tough with the Niners schedule. We're getting bit a little bit by the football schedule.
Yeah, I know.
And
congrats, by the way.
Yeah, no doubt. Big win for the Niners. Unfortunately, we got another one of these on Saturday because they're playing a Saturday night game instead of a Sunday night game. We all thought they were going to play Sunday night.
Short week.
And they wind up playing Saturday night. So, yeah, short week.
Well,
but no, we're back here tonight. It's great to be back here tonight.
Thank you.
It definitely feels a little bit different tonight than it would have doing the show yesterday in the afternoon. But what's on your mind? We can talk about both games, Danny. We can talk about both.
No
games.
problem.
I
appreciate that, and I'm teasing you. It's just I like it's nice to hear you do the post-mortem after a game like that. So few call. Anyways, congrats on the 49ers. I'm a Seahawks fan, but I was telling Kyle. Sorry, not to digress, but if they could be at home for the next 6 weeks, they don't have to pack a bag, right? Because the Super Bowl is in Santa Clara, right? So it's interesting.
It is. It is.
Anyways, the Toronto game was first of all, if they had Melton on, I'm sure that I believe they would have won, but that was so horrific. I mean, I don't know. I almost prefer a 30-point blowout to a loss like that. It was just so painful, And then when it went into overtime, I taped it because I was out and I said this Toronto's won, and I just flicked on the score and I saw they just destroyed them in overtime. But that was so hard. I'd never, and tell me if it's too much hyperbole, but I'd never seen a mauling like that at the end of the third quarter and at the end of the game, where they literally, it was like high school ball. They couldn't bring the ball up. I didn't understand that, and I never really criticized Kerr's coaching too much because he's a Hall of Famer and I haven't done anything, but I don't understand why TJD wasn't in there to at least guard Scotty Barnes, who was just destroying them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I felt like they need some energy. So I'm curious what you thought about that. And just tonight, this was a it's a win's a win. I mean, they bounced back. It was another horrible start. I don't know why every quarter is always like this. It seems every team comes in and they shoot the lights out in the first quarter. I don't understand why we can never get clamped down and get a good, lockdown first quarter. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So anyways, want to hear your comments. I mean, 4 of the last 5 is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, there's still a long way to go and a lot of problems, but anyways, just always enjoy and want to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much, JD.
Yeah. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure to have Danny in Vancouver chiming in here. I fully expected the Warriors to get off to a bad start tonight after they melted down and lost the game in Toronto yesterday. They just were not going to have the juice, and I know they didn't have it even early in the game yesterday before they ultimately kind of grabbed control of it and should have won that game with the lead down the stretch there. But I think, you look at it and there's 2 ways to beat that pressure defense. You either need to have somebody that can just dribble through it, period. Like somebody that's just got a handle to attack it and dribble through it, or but where you really beat it is with the pass. Where you really beat it is you see it coming and you hit the open man and you play 4-on-3, at that point, if teams are going to try, and you punish them, you go 4-on-3 and you go fast and you get an open look and you get a dunk or a layup or a wide open 3 and you hit a couple of those and you say, all right, game on. Like, you guys still want to do this because we're kicking your ass with it. And, that's been the thing that I think has been the most frustrating. And look, Toronto really, I thought, disguised it well when they brought it, but the Warriors just kept dribbling into it. And yeah, it started with, the wrong guys having the ball, in terms of bringing it up the court. And yeah, GP2, Diggum, that really the play that got the whole thing started yesterday against Toronto is GP2, bringing the ball up like he's doing a Steph Curry pregame warm-up dribbling drill. Like, what the heck was that all about? Like, he's just like working on his handle at practice. Like, that was brutal. And so it just, you can't have that. I mean, Pods was not recognizing it. Steph was not recognizing it. So you either, and look, I say you either need to have somebody that has a handle to be able to dribble through and around it, or you need to be able to throw over it. But you got to recognize it to a point where you're not getting the ball tipped, or you're not getting, two guys on you to where you can't step up and make the pass. I mean, how many times are the Warriors unable to make the pass to even get it to the 4-on-3 player? I mean, it was just brutal. And the Warriors don't have enough players on their roster that can just beat pressure with the dribble. So, and even Steph, as he's gotten a little bit older, that's been one thing where he has not been exactly, capable of doing it. And, he recognizes it sometimes late and can't make the pass over the top that's necessary and can't necessarily dribble through it. And when you are able to do it, it's extremely taxing. So it at a minimum, even if you're getting rid of it or you're dribbling through it and around it, it's making you tired. And so then it creates a negative impact as it relates there. But yeah, GP2 EB here, GP2 doing an and one tape at the end of the game. Yeah, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Yeah, Max Lopez, that was one thing. Jordan Poole did have that kind of handle where he would see it and split it, and all of a sudden, then you're playing 5-on-3 if you have somebody to be able to split it at that particular point in time. So, but yeah, I think TJD was a little under the weather the last couple of days, which is maybe part of the reason why he didn't get in there yesterday. But the Warriors just still don't have enough of those guys. That's where they do lack the contributors in terms of guys that have the ability to create off the dribble. And Melton, Melton is somebody that I think can be in position to bring it up, as Gene points out. But even he can be a little unathletic in that position. I think from time to time, but he's definitely somebody that you want to have out there as a safety net and a high IQ player and somebody that can get the job done. But yeah, the Warriors have not handled that elite guard and wing trapping pressure that you saw Toronto put on, that you've seen teams put on when they're trying to throw an inbounds pass. That's definitely been something that's been problematic for this team moving forward. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. We'll come back. We'll get our sounds of Dubs OT. We'll do some Kyle's clicks, and we will call it a night as the Warriors get the win over Brooklyn. They split the first two on the road, 120-107 the final. It's Dubs OT with JD here, rolling on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no ball.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, final segment. Warriors win at Brooklyn 120-107. So they're 1-1 on the road trip. They're 17-16 overall. They'll wrap up 2025 in Charlotte on Wednesday morning. And let everybody know we'll have Dubs OT for you. Myself and Kyle Haar will be going live right around 12:30 in the immediate aftermath of that one here on the KNBR YouTube page. So it'll be a heavy YouTube chat show, and we'll be here for you here on the Sports Leader, and then back at Harmonic on Friday with the Warriors taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right, let's hear some post-game podium and locker room sound, beginning with the head coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr. Some vintage Stephen Curry moments tonight for Golden State. It looked like Steph was going to get on one of those Steph heaters at a couple of different points to help lead the Warriors to victory. Steve Kerr addressed for the New York media the fact that it never really gets old watching Steph Curry do what Steph Curry still does on the regular.
Never gets old coaching Steph Curry. I can tell you that. He's an amazing player, even better person, and team leader, and he captivates people all over the world for a reason. It's the beauty of his play and his movement and the fluidity of it all, but also just the person he is. I think I've never met a fan who didn't like Steph. Maybe in Cleveland or in the finals, he got a couple bad remarks.
Yeah, maybe Boston. During the finals in 22, he got some bad remarks, but honestly, even then, from being in that building and covering that series, even the Celtics fans actually gave him quite a respectful cheer and ovation. Honestly, as he was getting the Finals MVP and the Warriors were getting their flowers there on the floor after the Game 6 victory. Actually, a pretty classy night that night in Boston, where the Warriors won the title, even as they were letting them have it for the 3 games in that building through the 6 games of that NBA Finals series. Did you see Cannon Curry, Kyle? Did you see Cannon Curry?
I did.
Working on his handle pregame tonight.
Can he break a press?
Cannon might have the second best handle on the Warriors after Steph. Right now, Cannon might have at 7 years old. Cannon might have the second best handle on the Dubs as he's going through the 2-ball dribbling drills. He was kind of going back and forth, sitting with his mom at the by half court. Cannon Curry may very well have the second best handle on the Dubs if they were able to get him back into back in on the roster. Here.
When is he eligible for a trade?
Cannon?
yeah. January 15th of 2030.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think 2038. I think is when he's officially eligible for a trade. I think the trade deadline of February 2038. We the champs, babe. Can Cannon play defense? Not sure. He looks like he could take a charge though. He looks like he could take a charge. He looks sturdy. Looks sturdy. But yeah, Cannon's definitely going to have the handle. I think here moving forward. Let's continue on the Sounds of Dubs OT from one Steve Kerr. Let's get to another one. The defense, was it offense? Was it defense? Warriors forced some turnovers down the stretch that really put the game away. Here's Steve Kerr addressing the way the Warriors were able to close out Brooklyn in the final couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, they got off to such a hot start and kind of picked apart our zone. They made a couple of late threes and late shot clock threes early. And but once we switched to our man-to-man, we had pretty good attention on Cam Thomas and Porter Jr., even though both guys, had it going a little bit. I thought in the fourth quarter, our attention to Porter Jr. in particular was really good.
So yeah, preventing Porter Jr. from getting some open looks. Again, they had a bunch of guys knocking down the three ball really all night long. And now Michael Porter Jr. Among them for Brooklyn in this game. I'm looking at the numbers here for MPJ as you look at the full night, and he ends up with 27 on 5 and 9 from 3 and 10 of 18. But 27, 9 boards, 5 assists. Like MPJ's a pretty good player, man. Couple turnovers. He had 3 steals. Like he is. I think a decent enough help defender. He's a good rebounder, man. I'm getting myself all worked into, can the Warriors actually get Michael Porter Jr.? I think that'd be a pretty good get if you could figure out a way to get the job done. But yes, the Warriors much more attentive defensively, I thought, down the stretch to help close out the game. DeAnthony Melton didn't play yesterday in Toronto. Warriors still limiting him in some of these back-to-backs. Played tonight. Here's Steve Kerr on the latest with DeAnthony Melton and just where he's at in terms of ability to be able to play and be in the Warriors rotation.
Yeah, 24 is now the new limit. And, I talked to him yesterday in Toronto. He said his body's feeling really good. So it's a good sign. And, hopefully we'll get to a point this season where he's able to play back-to-backs. But for now, we're being cautious.
And I think that's probably the smart move. Plus 26, by the way, for DeAnthony Melton, a game high plus 26. Nobody on the floor tonight, either side, had a greater plus minus than DeAnthony Melton's plus 26 in those 23 minutes. So didn't quite reach the max of 24, but 24, the new number. Definitely could have helped them in Toronto yesterday. But again, part of the reason why the Warriors have DeAnthony Melton is the fact that DeAnthony Melton is coming off of the injury that he's coming off of and can't play in back-to-backs and all of that here for the Warriors. So can they get him to a point where I think in a perfect world he'd be a starter and a closer, but can they get him to a point where he can be a regular 25 to 30 minute contributor, play back-to-backs and be a closer and just be able to build a little bit of rhythm with his offensive game? I think that's the last step. He does all the other things, but can he get to a point where he can be consistent enough in terms of his shot making and his finishing at the rim and those kinds of things to be on the court every single night for that lengthy part of time. All right, let's hear from Steph tonight. He goes for 27, leads the way in terms of points scored, along with Jimmy Butler, who had 21. Here's what Steph thought of the Warriors' ability to take care of business down the stretch throughout the night.
Well, that's what we needed to do, and we did it. Everybody contributed. It was, a committee, a do it by committee type of night, knowing the back-to-back and all that. So everybody stepped up, and it was great to see.
Yeah, committee in terms of 13 of the 14 players available were able to get out there and play tonight. And not everybody played a ton of minutes. I mean, GP2, 10. Buddy played 11. Pat Spencer played 10. But, he got minutes. Quentin Post, Steve went away from and went from Quentin Post to TJD pretty quickly. And TJD gave him a lift there. Just a bad Quentin Post matchup against Nick Claxton and against some of the other size that Brooklyn possesses. The athletic size is still not the best matchup for Quentin Post. But the Warriors went to TJD, and TJD provided a lift in that particular respect. So credit to TJD. But yeah, it was committee in a sense that, I mean, you look at 13 of 14 play, but 1, 2, 3, 4 guys basically play 5, if you count Quentin Post, play anywhere between 5 and 12 minutes. And then you got Steph and Jimmy, who were right around 30, Draymond at 25, and then you had the in-between guys with Richard 23, Melton 23, TJD 22. It was definitely spread around tonight with a lot of different Warrior players able to make an impact in this one. All right, let's get some more Kyle's Clicks, our final installment here before we get to that. The 650 on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. A Warriors game ball to TJD and Will Richard. The depth is lethal. Kyle, I don't know if I would say lethal, but lethal is probably not the word I would use. But the Warriors do have depth. And they got a lot of capable back into the rotation players that they can put out there on a given night. But
well, yeah,
I don't know, Kyle. Lethal?
No. Bad word choice, but I think, there's 7 through 13 is definitely better than the Nets 7 through 11. I would say that's a fair point.
Do not disagree with the 650 though. Game ball to TJD and Will Richard, and I do not disagree with our buddy Andis Brown, who mentions game ball has to go to Chris DeMarco for coaching his last game with the Warriors. What was it? 13 years, I believe, for Chris DeMarco with the Warriors. He was on Mark Jackson's staff, and Steve Kerr kept Chris DeMarco over when Steve Kerr took over. And so, you look at Chris DeMarco, who's going to coach the New York Liberty in the WNBA, and you wish him the best. He's a good dude, real good dude, real friendly face from kind of being around the team and being able to chop it up from time to time with some of the assistant coaches on some of the trips. And covering the team a little bit on the road or seeing him at Chase Center where guys are going through the early warm-up. Good call, Andis. Good shout out there to Chris DeMarco, who's been a huge part of the Warriors' success going back to pre Steve Kerr and pre anybody kind of knowing what the ceiling could be. And I have no doubt he will be somebody that has an extremely successful coaching career, and we definitely from Dubs OT wish him well as he moves on to be the head coach of the New York Liberty in the WNBA. So good, nice shout out there, Andis. Appreciate that. DeMarco's one of the good ones, and no word. Also, I don't believe his spot is going to be filled this year. I think Steve was asked about that. I know a few people have kind of thrown some tweets at me and even some personal texts like, hey, what are they doing with DeMarco? I don't think there's a plan at this point to fill that spot with anybody specifically in season. But obviously that's something that'll definitely be a position that'll be looked at moving forward toward the off season. So, all right, let's get a few more here. Our Kyle's clicks to close out the show. We'll get fun with numbers. There's a difference between depth and having a lot of bodies. Yeah, and I think, Diggum, I think it's a little better than having a lot of bodies, but it's not quite having legit depth either. But they've got some guys that they can throw out there. I think the way I've kind of put it, and people have heard me say it, is they have a lot of guys that I think they're 7 to 17, or they're 8 to 17 if you count the two-way guys, or 8 to 15. They got great 8 to 15 depth, 7 to 15 depth. I don't know that they have the 4, 5, 6. I guess I'll call it 8 to 15 depth. And you need 8 to 15 depth. But what they don't have is the 4, 5, 6, 7 spots on the roster with great depth there. But they do have some bodies. And look, I think they should have enough bodies to be able to win games like tonight with what they have, as long as Steph and Jimmy are both, going for 20 to 30 plus, basically going for 50 combined, when you look at an entire game, and then let everybody else kind of fill in the gaps along the way. But yeah, definitely a difference between depth and having a lot of bodies there, Diggum. That one made me chuckle a little bit, brother. Erwin Kwong, I like how Kerr put Richard back in the game for pods. Yeah, he did do that down the stretch there with about 3 minutes to go. It looked like he was going to go Podziemski, Melton, Jimmy, Steph, and Draymond. And TJD was in there for a few minutes. And then it looked like the closing lineup was going to be Steph, Podziemski, Melton, Jimmy, Draymond. And then, the Nets immediately went on a 6-0 run. They got the lead down to 107-101, and Kerr called a timeout. He got Will Richard back in the game, and it was Richard along with Melton that helped basically salt it away with some defense, leading to a couple of those fast breaks. So yeah, give it a nod there to Steve Kerr for going back to Will Richard over Brandon Podziemski. Ian J, you're making me laugh, man. Just missing that 3 through 7, JD. I'm going to call it 4 through 7. I'm going to call it 4 through 6, 4 through 7. I know, that's all. It is a big deal. No question. When you say it that way, yeah, it's only a third of your roster at the second level that you're missing. Well, I mean, how often is that true? I think pretty frequently it's true. All right, let's continue here. Swap Moody's mediocre as with Richard in the starting 5. I think, look, to me, you play Moody with the better other guys, and you bring Richard off the bench, but it doesn't mean that Richard can't be somebody that's going to be a finishing player. That's the way I would look at it. Keep Moody in there. Moody is a point of attack defender, I think, a lot of nights, which is why they like having him in there. But again, if Moody's not hitting shots or he isn't having a good night, then they have other players that they can potentially go to. And Will Richard's one of those guys. And Will Richard basically took his spot at the end. It's a means to play both because you're still going to play both guys anyway. So I think it doesn't necessarily matter as much who starts and who finishes, as long as you're willing to play the guy who's having the better night down the stretch in the game. And Steve was able to do that in this game. All right, let's get Fozzie. What's up, Fozzie? Richard and Melton, excellent defense at the end. Got a few steals. Yeah, back-to-back, the dunks, the steals. I mean, big-time game balls to them at the end when it was starting to look a little bit shaky or feel a little bit like yesterday in Toronto, where you're like, oh, well, 6-point lead with 3 minutes left. If you can blow a 7-point lead with 1:45, you can blow a 6-point lead with three plus minutes left, but the Warriors able to do it with the defense to put the game away. Great point, Fozzie. Zerkerex, Warriors should have signed Valanciunas during the offseason. Nuggets got him for almost free. Well, he wasn't a free agent. Valanciunas was traded, and if you recall, he was traded for Dario Saric, I believe. Ended up going to ended up going to Sacramento from Denver. And I can't remember the other part of that deal, but basically Valanciunas was going to go back and play overseas. And there was a battle basically between the Nuggets and Valanciunas, where I think they might have guaranteed some money on the third year of his contract to get him to report. But basically for him to go back and play overseas, the Nuggets had to sign off on it. And the Nuggets said, hey, we're not going to sign off on it, man. We want you to be the backup to Nikola Jokic. And by the way, prayers up to Nikola Jokic, hoping for the best on him. He went down with a knee injury tonight in Miami. And it was, non-contact injury. I was kind of scanning some of the headlines. Don't know the extent of it, but yeah, we obviously hope that Jokic is okay as he went down before halftime, I think, in that game. And it was kind of a non-contact thing that didn't look good. But yeah, Valanciunas was not readily available. He had to be traded for, and again, kind of forced to not go back overseas, which was his first desire. And yeah, a few people, Andis pointing out his knee hyperextended. Yeah, that's what it looked like, which is good. And so you just hope that it's something that's a couple of weeks, as opposed to obviously being something that's going to be season ending. But Valanciunas is a hell of a backup player. Those that have listened and watched this show over the time that we've been here on the Sports Leader, Valanciunas is definitely somebody that I would have had interest in if I were the Warriors, but I don't think Sacramento was ever going to be sending Valanciunas to Golden State. And so, yeah, there was a teammate as San Jose Jazz fan. There was a player who ended up stepping on him there. But yeah, it looked like he kind of was going down. It didn't look like the contact didn't necessarily cause the injury. The contact looked like it caused the freak move that caused the injury. But yeah, you hope that it was as simple as getting the knee pushed back on and being hyperextended, which would be a much less significant amount of time missed for Nikola Jokic. All right, let's get two more, Kyle. One more, two more. All right, two more. Let's get to this one. Jake Tonjes is the Pat Spencer of the 49ers. Okay, I'll roll with that one. I'll roll with that one. I'm kind of thinking, who is that disrespectful to? Was kind of my first thought, but I'm just going to roll. We're just going to roll with it. Let's get our comment of the night here.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Cannon already better than Bronny. That's funny. Cannon Curry already better than Bronny. All right. Yeah, fair, very good. Well, a good comment. Appreciate that, Dr. P. I'm also looking at our buddy Gene. Gene, Kyle, wait for it. JD doesn't like JK as a talent. It's got nothing to do with talent, man. Talent, it's got nothing to do with talent. It has to do with fit. And it's always had to do with fit. But for some reason, you still want to act like it matters, Gene. Like it's like, bro, it's over. It's been over. It was over in the spring. Anyway, I digress. But he's not helping this team at any point. And it's just like, it's time for it to end. That's the number one thing. It's time for it to end. And it will come that 3-week stretch at some point between January the 15th and February the 5th. This team's beyond the point of just throwing a guy out there because he's got talent, raw talent to try and win games when he wants no part of the role, which I think is something else that's resurfaced here, and just wants to get the heck out of town. It's unfortunate it ended this way, but I don't think anybody should be surprised that it's ended this way. Even though I think the Warriors are doing, I think the Warriors did what they had to do to try to keep the salary slot available for some semblance of a trade. Now we'll see what they're able to get. All right, let's close up shop with a quick fun with numbers.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun
I'm a fun guy.
with numbers
No, I'm just having fun.
on KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on knbr.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors get back to their winning ways as they have now won 4 of the last 5, 1-1 on the road trip. Warriors have won 6 of the last 9 head-to-head against Brooklyn, and the Warriors now split their 4th set of back-to-backs this season, 4-3 in the second game of back-to-backs. Warriors' 7th win when trailing by 10 or more. They were down by 15 in the first quarter tonight. And the Warriors had fewer turnovers than the Nets in this one. Didn't turn it over really at all that much other than the third quarter. So they're 13-3 when they win the turnover margin. 18th clutch game. Warriors picked up a clutch win tonight as they are now 7-11 in those contests within 5 points in the final 5 minutes. 9-4 when the Dubs score 120. And Stephen Curry tonight moved into 21st place on the NBA all-time scoring list. He passed Kevin Garnett, 26,071 career points, game high 27 for Steph Curry. And in the 5 games back since his injury, he's averaging a little under 31 points, shooting 45%, as well as 39 from 3 with about 5 boards and 5 assists and a steal in 33 minutes per game. And Jimmy with 21, his 17th 20-plus point game of the season. All right, that'll do it for us. Big thanks to Kyle Haar. Big thanks to Anthony Garcia. Big thanks to everybody in the YouTube chat, those that called, those that texted. We'll be back right around 12:30 on New Year's Eve morning game from Charlotte, and we're going to be all over it, Kyle. Looking forward to that. Look for us on the KNBR YouTube page. Stream only at about 12:30. Here on the Sports Leader. So we'll talk to you then. Warriors win at 120-107. Dubs OT right here on the Sports Leader. Emirates Cup or bust?
Oh, hell yeah.
First of all, you gotta start off liking each other.
I'm super cereal.
Big fat dub.
Ain't nobody going to stop me.
I just wake up and I can shoot it no matter if I'm playing or not.
But great win.
Who are these guys?
I love you, JD. Bye, sugar.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
Jimmy freaking Butler puts it in.
Obviously, I'm shooting the ball well. It's pretty obvious.
Batman comes out of nowhere. You never see him coming, then he just fall from the sky, from a building, behind the door. Everything's gonna be all right.